wanted to kind of start things off with a little intro to me, Peloton, and our team before we dive in. So I have about 16 years of research experience, and over the course of my career, I have found that I tend to be most motivated and I thrive the most when I'm in an environment, a company that aligns with my interests and my values. So Peloton really kind of sits at the center of that for me. I really do well when I'm in a kind of a mission-driven environment. I feel like Peloton ticks that box nicely. I really feel like Peloton is making the world a better place for a lot of people. I'm also, a researcher, obviously, and problem solver. I like to work in a problem space that's interesting and rich and complicated. And I'm also a fitness enthusiast. And like many people during the pandemic, I bought a Peloton bike and I became a Peloton enthusiast. And I was just incredibly excited and interested in the product, but also just like all the really interesting experiences I was having. And I'm gonna talk about some of those things today. And, as Katie said, I joined Peloton partly because I found myself daydreaming in my day job about the things that I would do if I worked at Peloton and what I would research on and what possible features they could add. And, so that's kind of my story and how I ended up at Peloton. So just some basics about Peloton. Raise your hand if you're a Peloton member. Hopefully we have, oh, good. Yay, we have some in the room. So you might know this, but many people come into Peloton thinking that Peloton is a bike company, and that's it. We actually are much more than that. We offer bikes, treads, we have a row, and we also have a guide and then the digital app. And we also have a new app called Strength Plus, which is in beta right now. If you haven't heard of it, you should check it out. It's really cool. So we offer a lot of different types of products, but we're a pretty complex business in addition to the different products that we offer. So we also have content, and we are, have B2B partnerships and other kind of complex business types of things. Like our supply chain is kind of complicated. We're international, So there's lots of different interesting ways that this touches the user experience. It's just a really fun and interesting, complex place to do user experience research. So that's kind of fun. And this is our Peloton user research team. Shout out to Beth Went, who is not pictured here. She was on parental leave when this photo was taken. But this is our team. So we're relatively small, given the complexity of the kinds of questions we're looking at and the scope of the different products. We do research in hardware. Beth was heavily involved in the development of our tread and our row, right? And she's worked on the bike. But we also do a lot of research into, all the other types of products we have. And sometimes we dip a toe into our content experience as well. And we talk to lots of different types of people. Our members, I forgot about that slide. Our members are kind of a complex, diverse set of people as well. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But before I do, I want you to kind of think about, in maybe your own context of where you work or what you do, think of a community or a product and think about at least maybe one tool that you could think of that was built by other users for users. And maybe, if you're able to kind of imagine what this is, just think about why? Why did they do that? What need does that serve? What's the point? Why would they take that upon themselves? And just keep that kind of in mind as I talk about our members as creators at Peloton. Okay, so thinking about the Peloton member, as I mentioned, we have a lot of complex sort of offerings at Peloton. And so we have a lot of different types of members, very diverse set of members in terms of their fitness experience. We have beginners all the way up to professional athletes using Peloton. We have people using different products. We have people who are using our hardware, but some people are just using the app. And some people are using the app on third-party hardware. So we call them hackers. We have our bike hackers, our tread hackers, and they're the people who are, sort of making it work for them. We have different subscription levels. So there's just a lot of different things going on. And one thing that we've observed as researchers is that the members have one kind of unifying thread that goes throughout them, and that is that they are incredibly passionate about Peloton. We have a very dedicated member base. We have really low churn, high NPS, and basically just people who almost become fanatical, and some have called the Peloton members cult-like in a good way. But it's just a really passionate group of people. So what happens when those people maybe have some kind of desire to have something that we're not offering them? Well, in our case, what we've seen is that they take it upon themselves to try to figure it out. So we have members as creators. And this looks a lot of different ways. So as I was, talking to Alec about this talk, and he was sort of explaining the goal of this conference, I was like, at first thinking about, well, we could talk about, the instructors and their creators. They have like huge social media presence and a lot of content creation. But then I was like, but what's really interesting to me is how our members basically became creators. And it was a little bit outside my, wheelhouse, my everyday wheelhouse to think about it in this way, but it was kind of a great thought exercise to try to, imagine like, well, why, what different kinds of things are people creating, and then why are they doing that? So some of the variety of what we see is off-platform communities. That's the biggest thing. That's maybe some of you who are Peloton members are part of some of these communities. We have tons and tons of Facebook groups, Reddit groups, and I'm sure other places as well. And then there's also media outlets that have sprung up that are dedicated to Peloton. They're Peloton members, and they have become, sort of our unofficial source of information for everything Peloton related. And then, we also have third-party websites that are offering things like accessories and third-party products and subscriptions even that are related to Peloton. So it's a pretty interesting, diverse set of, products and use cases that have emerged organically. And I would say that it's actually kind of a cottage industry around Peloton. So I'm going to share a few examples as I walk through this, and then I'll talk about some of the research implications for our team and how you might think about it for your work. So when I first started thinking about this talk, I was like, I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm going to count the number of Peloton groups there are. And that was an effort in futility. I think it was like infinite scroll, and I never could even get to the bottom. So there are tons of groups out there. Pretty much if you have an interest in something, you can make it a group about that and Peloton. So we have mom Peloton groups, we have dad Peloton groups, I'm part of a Colorado Peloton riders group because I live in Denver, and just everything under the sun. And they range in size from dozens of members to hundreds of thousands of members that are part of these. And on the face of it, it seems like, oh, okay, well, people just want to connect and have community around Peloton. That's cool, which is true. But I think as we start to examine a couple of these groups more deeply, you start to see like there's actually real unmet needs that are being addressed by these groups. And they're serving some of the top jobs to be done, if you will, for Peloton or for fitness in general. So I'm going to share a couple of examples, and then we'll talk about a few other examples of how this like member creator stuff looks for Peloton. So the first example is something called Hardcore on the Floor. Is anybody in this room part of Hardcore on the Floor? Besides Beth and me. So basically what Hardcore on the Floor is, it's a group that started, as you can see, in 2018. And it's basically, I don't know, maybe Beth, you could explain it better, but I think it's basically Peloton members who maybe they have a bike or they do some cardio, but they also do strength through Peloton. And the real primary goal of this is to give them a schedule. That's it, it's a calendar. So basically, I think the person who runs this, or now at this point, probably people who run this, they create a calendar, they tell you what class to take on what day. And then you just follow it, and you're kind of part of a community of people who are doing the same classes at the same time, and there's some connection there. But also, the thing that it's really serving is structured guidance. So one of the things that we have heard many times throughout years of research is that people want help knowing what to do to be sure that they're actually like making progress in their fitness. And one of the complaints we sometimes hear about Peloton is that they feel like we're putting too much work on them to figure out what to do. So this group kind of solves for that. And in addition to that, it gives people some accountability and motivation because they're part of a group where other people are doing the same thing and maybe they're feeling like they've committed to something. So that's pretty cool. Another example that I'll share is in some ways similar, but it's called the Power Zone Pack. And Power Zone, if you're not familiar with it, is just a type of training. It's not specific to Peloton, but in the cycling world, what you do at Peloton is you take what you call a functional threshold power test. It's a 20-minute ride that will make you want to die, and you will not want to repeat it, but you have to, like every 6 weeks or so. And it's once you do that, you get power zones that are bespoke to your fitness level. So when you get on the bike, then you have this power zone meter, and if you take a power zone class, the coach is instructing to, the zone. So like go to zone 3 instead of telling you what cadence and resistance to do. And that sort of gives you personalized training at scale. So it allows for you to do a more tailored workout to your fitness level. And people are fanatical about Power Zone. So Angie Verbeck started Power Zone Pack. I'm not sure when that started. Do you know, Beth? It's been around a long time. But basically what this group is she goes through every Power Zone class that Peloton creates. There's thousands of them. And she curates a program over, a length of time. So 4, 8, 12 weeks. And then people join teams and they follow the program and they compete against each other. And so you can get a platinum medal if you have the team that has the most participation and does all the classes. So what does this do? Why do people get so excited about this? You could just go in and take Power Zone classes on Peloton. You don't need to join this group. But people go so far as to even pay for a subscription with Power Zone Pack. So on top of their Peloton subscription, some people are paying $70 a year to be part of Power Zone Pack because it offers you specific metrics that are based on your Peloton data. And it gives you, workout comparisons over time. It does a lot of performance dashboard type stuff that right now you can't get in Peloton. So it's sort of offering people this structured guidance. It's telling them what to do. It's putting them into a program that if they take that FTP test at the beginning and at the end, they'll actually see probably that their FTP score goes up over time. And it also puts them into a team. And so then, if you want your team to get a platinum medal, you better do your workout because you're accountable to those people. So it's motivating. And it gives people a sense of community. Some of these Power Zone Pack teams have been together for years, and they travel to New York to go to do studio rides. And it's just it is a little cult-like. It's like people are really into it. And I actually joined this before I joined Peloton, and I did I did a Power Zone Pack challenge, and my husband did it. Best shape I'd ever been in my entire life. It was during the pandemic, so I had nothing else to do. But it was amazing, and it was a great experience, and part of what I would sit daydreaming about what I would do if I went to Peloton. So these are some of the groups that have just organically emerged around Peloton, and it's been really interesting to observe this as a researcher because even before I joined Peloton, I was like, what is going on here? Why are these people doing this? It's so interesting to me. It must be really serving some core fundamental need that they have that they're not getting from the product. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the research implications of that. But first I'm going to talk a little bit about, besides the on or off platform communities, there's also sort of these media outlets. And I want to share a couple of those to just give you a flavor of what that's like. And actually before that, I forgot. I also included this top form design, which it's a little bit of a stretch, I will admit, to say that this is a member creator, but they could be members. Top Form Design is this website that offers third-party accessories for our equipment. And I find it really fascinating because I actually discovered myself Top Form Design through the Shorty Tribe, which is a Peloton group for short people like me. And if you go onto the Shorty Tribe and you search for, how do I adjust the bike to fit my short stature, you will find half of their content is pointing you to this website to say, get that adjuster. Up on the top right, the adjuster is $205. And all it does is adjust your handlebars forward for short people. And I have that on my bike. And I just find it really interesting that these are the types of things that people are doing to accommodate their needs in ways that maybe the product itself isn't always doing. And so as a researcher, we're oftentimes really pointing our leaders to these things and being like, hey, look at this. Maybe we should provide this, some of these things. And there are things that have changed as a result, some of which I can talk about. Okay, so then when we talk about media platforms, the biggest one, the most notorious one is PeloBuddy. PeloBuddy is basically a news source dedicated to everything Peloton. Talks about, our latest news, our product releases, instructor news, because if you're a Peloton fan, instructors are like, D-list celebrities. They're really famous. And, there's a lot of people who are really into Cody Rigsby and Ally Love, and they want to know what's happening in their lives. So there's a lot of information here. And PeloBuddy is a really rich source for researchers. If you go on to like the Instagram PeloBuddy account and you look at their latest post and you just start reading the comments, it's like a treasure trove of information. And so we've used this a lot to just get initial signal on how members are thinking about what's happening at Peloton, what we've released, and do they love it? Do they hate it? How do they feel about it? They will tell us. They will never hold back. Peloton members are very fanatical about giving us feedback, which is a gift. And there's a double-edged sword to that, because our leaders also know that these sources exist and they read them. And sometimes, they're power users, so they're not necessarily like the most average of Peloton users. So sometimes the feedback is a little bit biased, and we as researchers have to sort of make sure that we give the full picture of like, well, we know that that's true for people who are extreme users, but we also need to serve these other needs too. But it's a really interesting source of information. And another example of this is the Clip Out, which is a podcast that is dedicated to Peloton. The podcast hosts are a married couple who are Peloton members and have very different profiles of like the types of activities they do on Peloton. So they spend about like an hour and a half each episode, each week, talking about everything from member interviews and sharing member stories to instructor news, instructor interviews. They have a whole segment on our finances, which has been hard to listen to for the last 3 years. But it's just interesting to me that our member base is so excited about Peloton that they'll listen to a podcast about our finances, So it's a kind of interesting angle as a researcher. I used to listen to this religiously just to understand like what the interpretation is of how things are being done and why we are introducing these product features and that sort of thing. So an interesting, kind of way to get a perspective from our users. So those are just some key examples of the different types of creators that our members are and what they've done to try to kind of address some of their unmet needs. So in terms of research implications, I've already talked a little bit about some of these, but one thing is just that it's an incredibly powerful input. So we oftentimes really triangulate our internal research with what's happening on these groups, or, we'll be like, let's just go look on Reddit and see what they're saying about this and try to get some information before we craft a survey. Maybe it'll help us come up with our response options. So that's a common thing that we do. And it's also been an interesting way to triangulate some of our internal, like, foundational insights. So one example of this is that we did jobs to be done research a few years ago and identified what the most important and least satisfied jobs were for Peloton, or for fitness, but least satisfied with Peloton. And one of the big themes that came out of that is around achieving your goals. So I need somebody to help me set my goals and help me figure out like how to make progress towards them. Like, what should I be doing to make progress towards my fitness goals? And how do I know if I've actually achieved what I set out to do? And, a lot of that sort of thing kind of really ties back in nicely to the work, not the work, but the groups of Hardcore on the Floor and Power Zone Pack. Because if you really go beyond the surface level, these are about community, actually, they're about serving these most important jobs to be done, of give me guidance on how to achieve my goals. And also, another important job to be done is community for fitness. And this has been a little tricky to understand. I won't go into all the nuances of it, but I think what we've learned through groups like Power Zone Pack and Hardcore on the Floor and other things are that community is a lever for us. So it might not be the reason why you join Peloton. It's the reason you're going to stay. And it's also a way to find accountability and motivation towards something that's really hard. You know, Peloton's not like scrolling through a feed or listening to music. It's what we call a lean forward activity. Like you have to put effort in. And so you need help to do that. And that's why community is so important. And so these like different kinds of, organic groups have really helped us to understand more deeply our own research insights. And I think that's pretty fun. And it has led to things landing on the product roadmap. And so I'm going to give a couple examples of things that we have recently released that kind of speak to the kind of triangulation of insights. So this first one, from left to right, I'll kind of walk you through what these are. It's probably kind of hard to see, but on the left, this is my personal home screen. I just screenshotted my own app. And it tells me what today's plan is. So basically, this is what we call personalized plans. It's currently available in our guide product, and it's now in beta in the app. So what it is basically what you see. The day I took this screenshot, I had already done my workout. So it's showing that I did a 31-minute just lift workout. So it was a strength day, so I followed my plan. Check, I get a check mark, yay. If you tap into that view my weekly plan, you can see what I've done for the week. I had a recovery day. Looks like I worked out on my recovery day, so it was probably a meditation or a stretching, hopefully. And then if you need to change that around, you can tap into your schedule and kind of move your schedule around. And even though it's just showing, strength, cardio, whatever, it chooses a class for you. And it says, if you want to do strength today, this is a great class. Why don't you go take it? So we're trying to take the cognitive load off of people and help them, give them that structured guidance that they're seeking. And this is, just the beginning. I think there's a lot more that we can do here, but this is kind of a step in the direction of trying to help address that unmet need that people have. Then we also have community. So again, I'll kind of walk you through this. This is my account. I guess if you want to follow me now, you know what my username is. But you don't need to know my username, because what you can see in the middle row there on the left is that we recently released Find Friends, which seems like a really basic feature, but for a long time, the only way you could find people was through their username. And if you didn't know their username, then it was really hard to find them. So now you can actually sync to your phone contacts and search by people by name. And that enables a lot of other community-related features that may be coming soon. And so that's been an important launch recently. And then that did enable the launch on the right, which is a new feature called Teams. And this is basically the ability to form your own team. They're private, you can connect with people you know. I have a few different teams there. You can see, my husband and I have the Rivera's team at the bottom there. and I have my besties from high school and a couple other teams. And you can create your own goals, and you can set challenges, and they can be challenges based on, activity, number of minutes, or specific modalities like running, whatever you want it to be. And so it's an interesting way to kind of help people in the product be able to kind of do some of the things that they've been going off platform to do. And so this is the first steps in that direction. And I'm really excited for what will be coming soon on that. So I guess just to kind of wrap it all up, I want you to kind of think back to what I said earlier, think about that community or product that you came up with in your mind, and what one tool a user has created for other users. And I want you to think about, okay, why? Why did they do that? What need were they serving? And how could you support that need? And how could you support them in serving that need better than they're doing it today? And how could you partner with them to maybe improve that experience? So with Power Zone Pack, that's one where we're actually, I think, partnering to kind of try to improve that experience with them. And I think that will be a really powerful way to help members feel more supported. So, there's a lot of different flavors of this. I'm sure everybody has probably a unique way of thinking about this, and I'd love to hear your ideas and any questions you might have. So, thank you.